What if I told you that the single most effective thing you could do today to prevent a fall isn't a balance gadget, isn't a grip sock, isn't even a handrail bolted into your bathroom wall? It's not something you buy. It's not something you install. It is one small adjustment to a movement you have made millions of times in your life, and you are almost certainly doing it wrong right now without having any idea. After 26 years working with adults over 70 as a physical therapist, I have watched this exact pattern walk into my clinic more times than I can count. Someone comes in after a fall, confused, embarrassed, saying, "I was just walking across the kitchen. I wasn't doing anything unusual." And they're right. They weren't doing anything unusual. That's exactly the problem. The way they walk every single day has quietly turned dangerous, and nobody ever told them. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening in your walk right now, why it's putting you at real risk, the one simple change that can start protecting you from your very next step, and 7 exercises that lock that change into your body permanently. No equipment, no gym, just movement, awareness, and a little patience. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at your own walk or the walk of someone you love the same way again. I'm Dr. Susan Sevelt, and before we go further, if you've ever caught yourself walking a little more carefully than you used to, a little slower, a little more cautiously, you need to hear every minute of this. Because that caution might already be working against you in ways you can't feel yet. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Margaret, because her story is one I've seen play out almost identically dozens of times. Margaret was 78, sharp, independent, lived alone, took pride in still doing her own grocery shopping. One afternoon, she was walking from her kitchen to her living room, carrying a cup of tea. Nothing unusual, no rush, no distraction. Her toe caught the edge of a rug she had owned for 15 years, a rug that had never once been a problem before. She went down hard, fractured her hip, and spent the next 4 months in recovery that changed the entire trajectory of her independence. When I asked her to walk for me during her rehab, I saw it immediately. Short steps, feet barely lifting, a slight forward lean. She had been shuffling for at least 2 years before that fall, and not one person, not her family, not her primary doctor, had ever mentioned it to her. That's the part that still bothers me after all these years in this field. This pattern is almost always visible long before the fall happens. It just goes unnoticed because it doesn't look dangerous. It looks careful. Let me describe that pattern to you now, and I want you to be honest with yourself, or honest about someone you love while I do. Someone walking down a hallway. Their steps are short, much shorter than they used to be. Their feet barely lift off the ground, sliding forward in a low shuffling motion instead of stepping cleanly. Their upper body leans slightly forward. Their eyes drift down toward the floor. Their arms barely swing. They're moving carefully, deliberately, because somewhere in the back of their mind, the floor doesn't feel as trustworthy as it used to. This is called a shuffle gait, and it is one of the most common walking patterns I see in adults over 70. It builds so gradually that almost nobody notices it happening. A little extra caution after one close call becomes a habit. The steps shorten, the feet stop lifting, the posture shifts forward, and what feels like the safe, careful way to walk is actually one of the highest risk movement patterns your body can adopt. Here's why that matters so much, and this is the part most people have never had explained to them clearly. When your feet shuffle close to the ground, any irregularity on that surface, a rug edge, a slight rise in the flooring, a crack in the sidewalk, a single loose floorboard becomes an instant trip hazard. There simply isn't enough clearance between your foot and the floor for anything to go wrong without it going very wrong. And because your steps are short and your weight is already pitched forward, the second your toe catches on something, your body has no time and no room to recover. There's no margin left. The fall happens before you even register that you're falling. That's what makes shuffle gait so deceptive. It feels like the safer way to move, slower, smaller, more controlled. but biomechanically it removes the exact safety margins your body relies on to catch itself. And here's something I want to sit with for a moment because it's rarely said out loud. Shuffle gait isn't just a walking habit, it's a signal, almost like a warning light on a dashboard. The muscles responsible for lifting your legs, your hip flexors, your glutes, your core, have weakened from underuse. The neurological connection between your brain and your legs, the speed and precision of that communication, has slowed down. Your proprioception, your body's internal sense of where your feet are in space without looking, has dulled. All of that is happening underneath a pattern that looks, on the surface, like nothing more than walking a little slower with age. Here's the part that should give you real hope, and it's the entire reason I'm making this video. Every single one of those things, the weakened muscles, the slowed neural signal, the dulled proprioception, is reversible. Not in theory. In practice, in my clinic, week after week, year after year, and it starts with one specific learnable change. That change is the heel strike. From this moment forward, every step you take should begin with your heel touching the ground first. This is exactly how the human body is biomechanically built to walk. When you were younger and your gait was natural and unguarded, your heel hit the ground first with every step. Your weight rolled forward through the arch, across the ball of your foot, and pushed off through your toes to drive the next step forward. It's a smooth, continuous rolling motion, heel, arch, ball, toe, push, and it is one of the most stable, efficient movement patterns the human body produces. Watch a toddler learning to run across a yard or an athlete jogging down the street. That rolling heel-to-toe motion is universal, instinctive, and durable. It's only with disuse, fear, and weakness that it disappears. Here's what happens slowly, almost invisibly, over years. As the muscles weaken and confidence in your balance quietly erodes, that heel strike disappears first. The foot starts landing flat, or even toe first, in a pattern that's shorter, lower, and far less stable. You stop rolling through the foot. You stop pushing off with any real force. You start shuffling. And here is the cruel part of this cycle. Every month that shuffle continues, the muscles responsible for producing a proper heel strike grow weaker still, simply because they are never asked to work. The shuffle causes the weakness, and the weakness reinforces the shuffle. Around and around quietly for years, until a rug edge or a sidewalk crack ends the cycle the hard way. So let's break that cycle right now. What does fixing this actually feel like step by step? With every step, reach your heel slightly forward, just a few inches more than feels natural at first, and let it make contact with the ground first. Feel your weight shift forward through the foot. Let your toes push off behind you as you step. And the single most important instruction I can give you in this entire video, lift your foot. Do not slide it. Pick it up. Reach it forward. Land on the heel. When you do this correctly, several things happen at once, like dominoes falling in the right direction for once. Your step length naturally increases, which improves stability and forward momentum. Your foot clears the ground properly, which removes the risk of catching on surface irregularities. Your posture improves automatically because the heel strike pulls your weight back and upright, out of that forward-leaning shuffle position. And your hip flexors, glutes, and core are suddenly asked to work again, which begins rebuilding the exact strength that protects you from falling in the first place. One change, one adjustment, but it triggers a chain reaction through your entire body, working for you instead of against you, with every single step you take for the rest of your life. If this is the first time anyone has ever actually explained to you why the way you walk has changed and what it's been quietly costing you, I want you to stay with me, because everything I'm about to show you is how you turn this knowledge into something your body does automatically, without thinking. I cover exactly this kind of practical, no-fluff health guidance every week, so if this is resonating with you, follow along now, because the next several minutes are where this actually becomes useful in your daily life, not just something you nod along to and forget by tomorrow. Now, before I give you the exercises, I want to explain why exercises alone aren't usually the full answer, because this is where a lot of well-meaning advice falls short. Most people are told to strengthen their legs after a fall risk is identified, and they're handed a generic list of leg exercises that have nothing to do with the actual mechanics of walking. Strength without the right movement pattern doesn't fix a shuffle. You can have strong quads and still shuffle. You can have strong glutes and still shuffle. The pattern itself has to be relearned, deliberately, the same way you'd relearn any motor skill, and then the strength has to be built specifically around that pattern, so it holds up under real-world conditions: fatigue, distraction, uneven ground, carrying something in your hands. That's exactly why the sequence I'm about to walk you through builds in that order: pattern first, then strength, then real-world application. Exercise 1. The conscious heel strike walk. Before anything else, you need to practice the heel strike itself slowly, deliberately, with full awareness. Most people who've been shuffling for months or years have genuinely lost the motor pattern of a proper heel strike. The neural pathway that produces it has faded from disuse, the same way a language fades if you stop speaking it. This exercise rebuilds that pathway by asking your brain and your legs to practice the movement correctly, one repetition at a time, until it starts to feel automatic again. Find a clear hallway or a long, open space along a wall. Stand at one end, one hand lightly touching the wall for safety if you need it. Begin walking, and this time, think about nothing except your heel. With every single step, consciously reach your heel slightly forward and let it land first. Feel the contact. Feel your weight roll through the foot. Feel your toes push off behind you. Take 10 steps forward this way. Turn carefully using small marching steps and walk 10 steps back. That's one set. Complete 2 sets. The key here is control over speed. Your heel should touch the ground with intention, not collapse onto it. Your weight should shift gradually, not drop suddenly. If you feel yourself rushing, pause, reset your posture, and continue. Once this feels stable, try the same walk while gently turning your head left and right as you go. That small addition trains your body to hold its balance even while your attention is divided, which is far closer to how you actually move through real life. Glancing at a doorway, checking for a pet underfoot, looking towards someone calling your name. Exercise 2. The slow motion heel-to-toe walk. This one will feel strange, and that's exactly the point. Begin walking at the slowest pace you can physically manage, slow enough that each step takes a full 3 to 4 seconds to complete. Lift your foot. Pause briefly in the air. Reach the heel forward. Lower it to the floor. Feel the weight shift. Push off through the toes and begin the next step. Walk the full length of your hallway this way. Turn carefully and return. That's one set. Complete 2 sets. Every wobble you feel during this exercise is your balance system being retrained in real time. Every small correction your ankle makes without you even consciously directing it is your nervous system rebuilding its responsiveness, quietly in the background, exactly the way it's supposed to. Once you feel steady doing this near a wall, try closing your eyes for 2 or 3 of the slow motion steps. That single addition dramatically increases the challenge to your balance system and speeds up the neurological rebuilding you're working toward. Because without your eyes to rely on, your body has to trust its internal sense of position and movement instead. If you're starting to feel, even slightly, like you understand your own walk better in the last few minutes than you have in years, that feeling is worth holding on to, because it means you're already doing the most important part of this, paying attention to something your body has been trying to tell you for a long time. Exercise 3, the wall-supported heel raise. Stand facing a wall or sturdy countertop, hands resting lightly on it for support. Slowly rise up onto the balls of both feet, lifting your heels as high as comfortably possible. Hold for 2 full seconds at the top. Then lower back down slowly and with full control, taking 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. Complete 12 repetitions. This exercise strengthens the calf muscles and ankle stability that drive the push-off phase of a healthy heel strike, the exact muscles that have gone quiet during months or years of shuffling. Without strong calves and stable ankles, even a perfectly practiced heel strike pattern will feel effortful and unstable in daily life. So this is what gives the pattern its staying power. Exercise 4. The marching hip flexor activation. Stand tall, holding a wall or chair for support if needed. Slowly lift one knee up toward your hip, as if marching in place, then lower it with control. Alternate legs for a total of 20 lifts, 10 per side. Focus on lifting with intention rather than momentum, a slow, controlled lift rather than a quick kick. This rebuilds the hip flexor strength, responsible for clearing your foot off the ground with every step. The strength that Shuffle Gait has been quietly draining away for months or years without you noticing the loss happening. Exercise 5. The seated marching warm-up for anyone who needs a gentler entry point. If standing exercises feel like too much right now, sit tall in a sturdy, armless chair. Lift one knee toward your chest as high as comfortable. Hold for 1 second, then lower with control. Alternate legs for 20 total repetitions. This builds the same hip flexor strength as exercise 4, with the security of being fully seated, and it's an excellent way to build confidence before progressing to standing work. If you've made it this far, I want you to notice something. You are no longer the person who walked into this video. You now know the name of the pattern that's been working against you. You know exactly why it's dangerous, and you've already started practicing the fix. That is not a small shift. That is the beginning of something that protects you for years to come. If you want to keep building on this, every single week, hit subscribe right now, because the next video could be the one piece you're missing. Exercise 6. The single leg balance hold. Stand next to a wall or sturdy chair, hands hovering nearby but not gripping unless needed. Shift your weight onto one foot and lift the other slightly off the ground, holding for as long as you can, aiming eventually for 10 to 15 seconds. Switch sides. Complete 3 holds per leg. This single exercise does more for fall prevention than almost anything else on this list because falls happen in single leg moments. The instant your weight transfers fully onto one foot mid-stride, training your body to be stable in that exact position, deliberately and repeatedly, builds the specific stability that protects you in the real moments that matter. Exercise 7. The obstacle step-over drill. This is where everything comes together. Place a rolled towel, a pool noodle, or a soft cushion on the floor, about 4 to 6 inches high. Stand a few feet back with a wall or chair within easy reach. Walk toward the obstacle at a normal, controlled pace. As you reach it, lift your right foot deliberately, high enough to clear the obstacle with room to spare and step over. Then lift your left foot and clear it completely. Continue a few steps beyond it, turn carefully, and step back over it on your return. Complete 5 passes in each direction, 10 step-overs total. Don't rush as you approach the obstacle. Slow slightly as you get close. Lift your foot early, well before you reach it, and make the step with confidence, not panic. This trains your brain to recognize an obstacle in advance and respond to it with control, which is exactly the split-second sequence your body needs in real life, with a rug edge, a doorway threshold, a pet toy, or a garden hose left across a path. Here's something I want you to notice about that progression, because it isn't arbitrary. We started with the pattern itself, slow and conscious. Then we built the specific strength that pattern depends on, calves, hips, single leg stability. And only then did we put it under a real-world style challenge, an obstacle in your path. That order matters enormously. skip straight to obstacles without rebuilding the pattern and the strength underneath it, and you're just practicing a risky moment without the tools to handle it safely. Build it in the right order, and by the time you reach exercise 7, your body genuinely has what it needs to succeed. Now, before you do any of this, I need you to pause and really hear what I'm about to say, because your safety matters infinitely more to me than your progress through this routine. If you've recently had a hip or knee replacement, if you're being treated for plantar fasciitis or any heel condition, or if your doctor has told you to avoid weight-bearing exercise, please talk to your physician or physical therapist before attempting any of these movements. Some exercises may need to be modified specifically for your situation, and that's completely normal, not a failure. Always practice near a wall, countertop, or sturdy chair, never out in the open with nothing to reach for. Never rush these exercises. Speed is not the goal, control is. Wear non-slip footwear or go barefoot on a safe, dry surface. And if at any point you feel sharp pain, dizziness, shortness of breath, or anything that simply doesn't feel right, stop immediately. No exercise in this video is worth risking your safety over. Progress at your own pace and trust your body to tell you when it's genuinely ready for more, not when you think you should be ready. Let's bring this all the way back to Margaret for a moment, because her story doesn't end at that fall. After 4 months of recovery, she started this exact sequence: heel strike awareness first, then the strength work, then the obstacle training. It took her close to 3 months of consistent practice before the heel strike stopped feeling like something she had to think about and simply became how she walked again. But by month 4, her physical therapist notes described her gait as near normal heel-to-toe pattern, improved step length, improved postural alignment. She told me months later that the thing she noticed most wasn't even the walking itself. It was that she'd stopped scanning every room for hazards before crossing it. The fear had quietly left because her body had earned back the right to trust itself. That's really what this entire video has been about. Not just a walking technique, but the fear that builds up underneath bad walking mechanics, and the way that fear shrinks a person's world without them ever quite noticing it happening. Fewer walks around the block, more hesitation at the top of the stairs, sitting down instead of standing up, just to avoid one more uncertain moment. None of that is really about aging. It's about an unaddressed movement pattern, quietly running the show. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. Literally, heel strike walking, practiced consistently, not perfectly, but consistently, rebuild strength, coordination, and confidence. All 3, all at once. And that confidence is what lets you walk to your mailbox without thinking twice, climb your own stairs without hesitation, chase after a grandchild across the yard without that quiet voice in the back of your mind asking whether your legs will hold you. That is not a small thing. That is everything. I want to hear from you directly. Have you noticed yourself shuffling more than you used to? Or has someone close to you mentioned it before you noticed it yourself? Leave a comment below with your age and where you're watching from, because someone else watching this today needs to read exactly what you're about to share. And if this gave you something real to start working on, send it to someone you love who could use it too, a parent, a neighbor, a friend who's been walking a little more carefully lately. The next conversation you have with them about this could be the one that prevents their next fall. I'm Dr. Susan Seevelt. Stay steady, and I'll see you in the next one.